Hey everyone, Sheila here from Life with Pets. So today we're going to take a look at breeding guppies, and I'm going to go through it sort of step by step and all the things that you need to think about, whether you're wanting to breed for fun in a community tank or whether you're wanting to breed maybe a little more seriously. So let's start with tank size, and a good tank size for breeding guppies is 10 to 20 gallons. And the reason for I want to say a larger tank for a small fish is they do produce very quickly, so that is a good starting point if you're wanting to breed just solely guppies or if you're wanting a community tank with some guppies in. If you're wanting to deliberately breed guppies, then you do need to make sure that you have a setup that suits what they require for them to breed and also for the fry to survive. So you do need a filter that is suitable for them, and the best one is a sponge filter, and that's simply so that the fry, because they are so tiny when they're born, cannot get caught up in a current and end up being pulled up into the likes of a hang-on back filter. Also, sometimes the hang-on back filters can have a strong flow that is just too much for the fry, and so with a sponge filter you can also adjust the flow. Now, Substrate, that is a personal choice. A lot of serious breeders do not use Substrate. On 5 of our tanks we do have Substrate and we're using sand, and in our other 5 guppy tanks we do not have any Substrate. The reason we've done that is the tanks that you're looking at now have the sand substrate, and we solely have guppies in these tanks. There are no snails other than Nerite snails, but other than that we don't have any snails actually breeding in here, whereas in the other 5 tanks we have the tanks sort of set up for dual breeding, meaning we also use them to breed snails and guppies as well. And so we just found that it was a lot easier to keep them clean by having no substrate. You will also need plants. We like guppy grass is a great plant, or water sprite, something that sort of gets quite thick in the tank, because you do need a lot of plant cover if you want the fry to survive. Unfortunately, the males and females will eat their fry if you're not really careful, so you do need plants in the tank, and I will address that a little later on, because I do have a really good tip for that we have found works very well. Tank temperature, usually between 75 and 82 is ideal. Some breeders have reported that at certain temperatures they get either more males or more females. We keep our tanks at 78. I have found in all of our fry so far we do tend to get a few more females over males, but in my opinion that's a good thing, because we only sell in trios, so I need 2 females to every male, so I think that actually works out really well for us. One question you do need to ask yourself when it does come to breeding guppies, and that is, why are you wanting to do it? Are you wanting to try and create a new strain? Are you wanting to just have them in a community tank for fun? Are you wanting to continue to breed strains that are already available? And what is it you're wanting to do with those fish? Whether you have guppies just in a community tank that are breeding, or whether you are deliberately breeding guppies, the one thing that is consistent across those 2 things is that you will likely need to find homes for them, either at your local store or selling them online, and so you do need to give that some thought. Guppies do breed very quickly, and so you can get overpopulated with them, and so you do need an outlet of what you're going to do with all those babies. So that is something that you really need to think about if you want to get into breeding guppies. Okay, so you know why you want to breed guppies, you've got your tank all set up and ready to go, you've cycled it, and now you're ready for your guppies. So this is where the question comes in, why are you wanting to breed? If you're just wanting to have fun with it, then usually your local store will have some beautiful guppies that you can go and get and add to your tank. Now, if you're wanting to breed a little more seriously, like we have chosen to do, then you do need to make sure that you find some good quality guppies, that you can then keep that pure strain going, and as they breed and produce, then you sort of take out the ones that maybe don't have the desired traits, and you keep the ones with the traits that you're actually looking for. This is where it comes into play that you will need several tanks. If you're wanting to work with several different strains of guppies, then you obviously need to keep each one in a separate tank so that the strain stays pure. And also you also need maybe a spare tank for ones you decide, you know, these don't make the cut, these don't have the pattern, the colouring or whatever. And again, you do need an outlet for whether a local store will take them for you, so that you don't end up with tanks and tanks full of guppies that you don't know what to do with. So when it comes to ratio of guppies when you're choosing to buy some, most will say a ratio of 1 male to 2 females. And when we bought all our strains, that is actually what we did. I would buy 2 trios in most cases, so that we started off with a decent number of fish. In a few cases I also worked with the breeder and I asked for more females over males. I personally prefer a 3-to-1 ratio when it comes to sort of getting established and getting going. I find that the females are not as harassed and they're not as stressed. This then promotes a really good environment in the tank. So the likes of this platinum red Dumbo guppy strain here that you can see here, we have 2 males in there and there's about 9 to 10 females. So once it gets really established, then we then go for very few males, 1 to 2, to a lot more females, and I've just found that that works really well. I've also done it where with this tank here with all these babies, the 2 original females have been in here and they are still giving me babies even though they haven't been with a male in 3 months. And so there is no male currently in this tank now, and like I say, they're still giving me a lot of babies. So when you get your new fish, you need to make sure that you do quarantine them, and we also choose to run a treatment through the tanks when we get them. We do general cure and erythromycin, and then we just then watch them very, very closely after that. I do think that that is very important when it comes to fish that you are intending to sell. And any new fish that you bring in, maybe if you're wanting to diversify the genes within a strain because you've maybe bred them for many generations, although you're bringing in a duplicate strain, you do need to make sure that you quarantine them before adding them to your existing fish. So you've got your fish and you've quarantined them, and then it's down to giving them a good quality diet so that they are strong and healthy, and in no time at all you will end up with babies, and lots of babies. So for feeding, there are many foods on the market when it comes to good quality foods, and so really it is a personal preference. For us, we do use a quality pellet that I will then grind up so it is small enough for the fry, and obviously I drop bigger bits in for the adults. We also feed baby brine shrimp to the fry for about the first few days, and then I go to Daphnia. So Daphnia gets added to the tank every single day. I also love to feed, and I think this probably is the favourite one for me, and that is the Rapashi gel food. I feed a mixture of the Spawn and Grow, Community Plus and the Soylent Green. And that one, I just find it's such a versatile food in that I can either put it in big chunks for the adults, or I can literally like smush it all up and put it into the tank, and the pieces are then small enough for the tiniest of fry. So that one is probably one of my favourite foods. We do also feed mini bloodworms as well. The reason I choose to do a very varied diet is of pellets and gel food and frozen foods is I want them ready when they go to their new homes, that they will accept any food that they are given. So once your male and female have been together for a while, eventually you will start to see her get bigger and bigger. and you will notice the gravid spot. This is an indication that she's pregnant, and as time goes on you will see her sort of take on a more, I want to say, a square-like appearance. And as she's getting nearer to giving birth, you will find that the male will just harass continuously, unfortunately, and that is basically because he keeps sort of bashing into her, and as she drops the fry he will actually try and eat them. So if you see this behavior, one thing I have found works very, very well, especially if you've got a trio in there and this is like their first batch. I've found by sort of taking the males away, either putting them in a breeder box or something like that, to just give her the peace and quiet that she needs. And then once the babies are born, I then try and catch as many as I can and I put them in a breeder box, and I leave them in there for just about a week, that's all, and obviously feed them up so you can sort of target feed them specifically. And after a week I then release them, and I have found this works incredibly well because once they're released, obviously they're that much bigger, and so the parents don't tend to bother with them. And also then once they have more fry, because they're so used to fry just swimming around, I found that they just don't bother with the others at all. Now that is not to say that they never eat any fry, I'm not claiming that at all, but I have found that it works very well indeed to take out that first batch when you first get going. So the female will drop fry approximately every 4 to 5 weeks. We have found that it is about every 4 weeks for us, and the first batch, when they have their very, very first one, I've found tends to be anything from maybe 5 to 15 babies. When the fry are first born, they are very, very tiny, and so you do need to make sure that the foods that you're offering them are small enough for them to eat. I have found that baby brine shrimp and also grinding up food is usually the best option, along with the rapashi actually as well, because like I say, you can smush that up into almost non-existent. There are also some fry foods on the market as well that you can buy, but you do need to make sure that you have food available that is small enough for them to eat. Once you've got the fish breeding and breeding in a tank, the one thing that you will need to watch is your tank maintenance. And I guess that this really comes into, I mean, you can have a tank full of guppies, but you do need to make sure that you do the maintenance that goes with that. When you've just got a few guppies in there, your once a week water change will be fine, but once you start getting babies and more babies and more babies, and as they're all growing up in a tank, then you may find that you need to do extra tank maintenance, especially if you want the fry to grow at a decent rate. Then you do need to up that tank maintenance for that to happen. We actually do 2 water changes a week on all of these tanks, and I find that that works really well. It keeps the parameters where we need them, and the guppy fry do seem to grow at a really nice, not too fast, but they do grow at a good rate with us doing that. So once your fry are grown up and are big enough, you then need to decide what you want to do with them. Do you want to sell them? Do you want to trade with your local fish store? Do you have a fish club? You do need to make sure that you have an outlet for all the babies that you are planning on producing. Now, I do know that we're going to get a lot of questions on, do we sell our guppies? We do sell them through our website, so if you want to go on over and take a look at them, you can do. Not all of them are actually listed right now. I will be listing some more ready for January, and you can actually do the notify when back in stock if you are interested, and that will then just let you know once we add them back to the website. So what if you want to have guppies but you don't want babies? You can do all male guppy tanks, and as long as we have found, as long as you do 5 or more, then they tend to get along really, really well. You can also do just a female tank, but there are never any full guarantees that they won't already be pregnant. But those are 2 options if you don't want the babies but you do want to own these beautiful fish. Alright guys, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.